If you're anything like me, when you heard of this Pokemon Roguelike ROM hack, you were probably like, whoa! What's a roguelike? Any of a genre of computer role-playing game loosely characterized by various characteristics such as randomized environment generation, permadeath, turn-based movement, text-based or primitive tile-based graphics, and hack-and-slash gameplay. Neat! So basically, if a Pokemon faints, it dies. Every single route has random trainers, items, and Pokemon. Gyms are all in a random order, and difficulty is skilled. So for example, if you run into Winona as your first gym, she'll have like a Pidgey. But if you run into her as your 8th gym, she'll have the 3 legendary birds of Kanto. I'm not imposing any new challenges on top of regular gameplay mechanics, and I'm just gonna do a playthrough of the game to see how I like it. Spoiler alert. Even the first thing you get to do, pick your starter. It's all randomly generated, first or single stage Pokemon, so the possibilities are endless. Do you want Carvanha, Tropius, or Horsey? Horsey! Nidoran, Electrike, or Porygon? Nidoran! But I regretted that almost immediately. How about Oddish, Charmander, or oh my god, is that a Dratini? I named my Dratini Puff, and on the first route I catch Lord Helix and outlet the Elekid. But really, they don't matter that much because Puff learns Dragon Rage before the first gym, and sweeps Norman because most low-level Pokemon have below 40 HP. Next I catch an Oddish that I named 420, he's literally called the Weed Pokemon, and an Abra I named Panties, because, his species name is Abra. Why not? Panties. I also catch a Beldum in the same area and I name him Arm. Just look at it. It's an arm. Before the gym leaders, there is a woman who offers to battle you to bring you up to the level cap. It's a really great quality of life feature. By battling her, both 420 and Arm evolve. The second gym leader I face off against is Lisa, who raises psychic types, but with Sleep Powder, Growth, and Mega Drain, 420 is able to sweep Lisa because a lot of their Pokemon's secondary types were weak to grass. In the next route, I catch a Slowpoke I name Pookie, who dies immediately in its first fight. So I catch another Slowpoke, and I name it Pookie 2, because this isn't a Nuzlocke, and I can do that. Outlet evolves into Electabuzz, and Puff evolves into a Dragonair. Now that I am a team of 6, I only want to catch Pokemon if I think it outclasses what I currently have. There is no box in this game.
Nope.
So if you catch more than 6 Pokemon, you have to release one of them from your party to the wild. A super interesting resource management problem because now you have no backup Pokemon. Gym Battle 3 is against Watson. I'm leading with Outlet, but I switch into 420, who sets up with Sleep Powder, Growth, and Giga Drain. With support from Puff and Arm, Watson goes down easy. The next route, I catch a Forretress. Even though 420 has been doing a good job so far, I end up kicking him off the team. Without a guaranteed way to get a Leaf Stone, 420 might never evolve, and I need stronger hitters for the challenges ahead. On the next route, I catch a Shelgon I named Aragon. I end up kicking Panties off the team for the same reason as 420. Without the item I need to evolve him with, he's not very useful moving forward. Speaking of evolution, Arm evolves into its final form, Metagross. Winona is gym number 4 for me. She leads off with Aerodactyl, and I switch into Outlet from Glasses. And Aerodactyl goes for an Earthquake, knocking him out. What? I switch into Pookie 2, who takes it out with the Water Pulse, but Winona sends out Gyarados next. I go for a Slack Off to heal a little bit, but her Gyarados knows Power Whip, knocking out Pookie 2. So I send out Glasses to go for an Explosion Hail Mary. And Winona goes for a bounce, so Explosion misses. I am getting played right now. This is embarrassing. I go into Arm to take the next bounce and take the Gyarados out in 2 Psychics. A few Psychics also take out her Delibird. Next for Charizard, I send out Aragon, who gets taken out by a Slash. I go into Puff and use Thunder Wave, paralyzing the Charizard. Then I heal up with a Lemonade. When Slash misses, I take out Charizard with an Aqua Tail. Her last Pokemon is Jumpluff, and after paralyzing it with Puff, I switch into Arm to take it out, winning the 4th gym badge. Everyone on the team is dead except for Puff and Arm. My priority on the next route is getting new teammates. There are a few different kinds of routes that can randomly generate. You can get a Calm, Average, or Tough modifier. Calm means there are 6 possible unique encounters and very few trainers. Average means there's 4 possible unique encounters and a few trainers. Tough means there's only 2 possible encounters and a lot of trainers. Balancing encounters and trainers is key. because you need a diversity of Pokemon to team build, but you also need money to buy items and customize the Pokemon that you do have. These old men here just do a game show where they give you random prizes, and it's just not worth it. Luckily, this route down here is an average route, so I can get a few more unique encounters. I catch a Sharpedo I named Shark Boy, an Electrode I named Pokeball, and a Cacturn I named Spikes. And Puff finally reaches his final form, a Dragonite. The next route is a tough one, so there are a lot of trainers and only a few encounters. My options are Nosepass and Growlithe, which might never evolve because there's no guaranteed way to get a Firestone. So it's probably not worth it. Oh shit, a shiny! I catch the shiny good boy and name him Golden. Who cares if I don't have a Firestone, and who cares that he has the worst of the two available abilities? He's shiny, so he's perfect. After doing that tough route, I have a lot of money, so I use it to buy healing items. The 5th gym for me is Juan. Luckily, I'm leading off with Spikes. Unluckily, he has a Gyarados who paralyzes me, then takes half my health before going down. Next is his Cloyster. I send out Arm to Hammer Arm, which doesn't kill. I'm taken down to red health. I need a clean switch into Pokeball, my Electroid, to survive this battle. I look at my team to see what has the lowest value. I'm sorry, I sacked the shiny! Cloyster goes down to its life orb, and I have a free switch into Pokeball, who's able to take out Juan's Relicanth with Discharge. On his next Pokemon, I switch into Shark Boy, who gets burned. So I end up sacking Shark Boy to get a free switch into Spikes, who's able to take out the Lantern with Energy Ball. The next route I go on is average again, which means there's 4 unique encounters. The best one for me is a Lunatone, which I name Banana. After that, the route is still average, so I decide to catch Arbok. At least it has Intimidate. And I name Arbok Jessie. Just pretend that I spelled it right. In these battle stops, there are NPCs that you can pay to customize the moves of your Pokemon. So I buy Fire Fang for Jessie and Psychic for Banana. My 6th gym badge is against Flannery. I'm leading off with Spikes, and without any solid switch-ins, I decide to sack him. I go into Banana next, hoping that since it's a rock type, it'll be able to put in work. Well, maybe it could have, but I got burned immediately. After taking out Rapidash, it went down to Charizard. I went to Pokeball to take out Charizard, but stay in against Flareon, leading Pokeball to go down as well. On Flareon, I go into Puff and take it out with an Aqua Tail. I realize I should have been doing this the whole time. I set up against Macargo and take out the rest of Flannery's team. I guess I got so used to Puff being not very useful in his early forms that I forgot as a Dragonite he's actually strong AF. On the next route, I run into a Shedinja, which I catch and name Dead Skin, because that's what it is, a pile of possessed dead skin, which is pretty gross if you think about it. I also catch a Medicham that I name Pump and a Dugong I name Gong. My next route is this shadowy figure. Turns out I can pick one of these items which will buff me for the rest of the run. I pick the Critical Hit Charm because that just felt like the most obvious one, but it is a dark deal, so I get cursed. Cursed to not be able to catch a Pokemon if it's already in my party? I don't really do that anyway. So, nice! I did a deal with the devil and it went really well. 10 out of 10, would recommend. My 7th gym battle is against Brawly. He leads off with Machamp and I lead off with Puff. I use Dragon Dance and he hits me with Ice Punch, oh my god! But I survive. After that, Puff sweeps his entire team, leading to my first deathless gym since gym number 3. The next route, I replace Pump with a Marowak that I named Skull, but the joke is on me because via process of elimination, I realized that Roxanne is the 8th and final gym leader for me, and a fighting type would have been incredibly useful. Oops. Luckily, I had a few air balloons that I equipped to Gon, Jessie, and Arm. Gon gets taken out immediately by a head smash from Roxanne's Aggron. Arm retaliates with a Meteor Mash, knocking it out. One Meteor Mash also takes out Roxanne's Tyranitar. Her Soul Rock burns me, but I heal it off, and I take it out with a Meteor Mash as well. Our model also goes down to one Meteor Mash. But her Rhyhorn lives and retaliates with a strong Earthquake, so I go into Skull, who takes it out with a Stomping Tantrum. Against her last Pokemon, Cradily, I go into Jessie, who takes it out with a Gunk Shot and some Fire Fangs. And with that, that's all 8 gym badges, but the Elite Four is waiting for me. I'm one Pokemon down after losing Gong, and unfortunately, the next route is a tough one, so there's only 2 options. The options are Mawile and Minun. I guess I pick Minun because it adds some additional coverage to my team. I name her Debbie, like Debbie Downer because she's minus, like she's negative, like a negative Nancy. Shit! Nancy would have been a better name. The next route on my path is actually a strong trainer battle. I typically avoid these because the trainers tend to have really high level teams, but this time it's unavoidable. I'm up against Lucy, who leads off with a Nidoqueen. I'm leading with Deadskin, and she immediately withdraws and goes into her Beedrill. I send out Skull, who takes out Beedrill. She goes back into Nidoqueen, so I go back into Deadskin. She switches out into Gengar, and I use Phantom Force to take out her Gengar. Then she sends out Crobat.
I'm such a fucking idiot!
Guess who forgot that Crobat was a flying type and not just a poison type because it doesn't look like a bird. This girl. Then I do what I should have done the whole time, which is switch into Metagross to take out the rest of her team because he can't be hit by poison type moves. She lets me take her Nidoqueen as a reward for beating her. This is where I would have put my Shedinja if I had one. My next rest stop has move tutors, so I work on my Minun's moveset. I teach it Discharge, then notice some other interesting things it can learn. Baton Pass and Substitute. My first Elite Four member is Drake. I take out his Altaria with Arm, then switch into Jesse against his Salamence to get an Intimidate and a Glare off. He Dragon Dances, which freaks me out, but I do get the para off. I send in Lucy, who lives through an Outrage, gets off an Ice Beam, but gets taken out in the next Outrage. But now he's confused. So, time for the real plan. I send in Debbie and get a sub off. Then I Baton Pass into Puff, get off a Dragon Dance, and sweep the rest of Drake's team. Easy peasy. On the next route, to replace Lucy the fallen Nidoqueen, I catch a Blastoise and I name him Leonardo. My second battle in the Elite Four is against Phoebe. I use Baton Pass to get a sub on Dragonite, then set up with Dragon Dance and sweep her whole team. After that, I catch a Swampert I name Fiona and I kick Skull off the team. Skull's best ground type move was Stomping Tantrum and this Swampert comes with Earthquake. My next Elite Four member is Sydney. I lead off with Debbie to get off a sub and pass it to Puff, but the Umbreon breaks it with a foul play. To increase my chances of keeping the sub up, I go into Jesse to get off a Glare to paralyze the Umbreon before setting up the sub again. It works, and I take out his Umbreon, Tyranitar, and Sneasel before Puff gets confused from fatigue from Outrage. Against his Houndoom, I go into Leonardo, and against Shiftry, I use Jess. His final Pokemon is Absol. He sets up 2 Swords Dances, and I take it out with 2 Earthquakes from Fiona. My next route is a PC. When you walk in, it's Professor Broach's lab. He tells you that he was able to recapture some of the Pokemon that you lost along the way. He'll tell you to take one, but it has to replace one that's on your team. My options are Skull, Lucy, and Gong, and I decide to leave them all there. Sorry guys.
Nope.
My next battle is against Glacia. I lead with Debbie to get off a substitute, but it breaks with Ice Beam. I decide to hard switch into Arm, who tanks the Ice Beam and brings it down to a Sash with a Meteor Mash. Against Piloswine, I switch into Leonardo. I decide to set up a Rain Dance to get rid of the Hail Chip. Leonardo takes a few Earthquakes, then takes down Piloswine with a few Surfs. Her next Pokemon is Lapras, which freezes me with a Freeze Dry. I switch into Jessie to get a Paralyze off, and then I heal Debbie. I switch into Arm, who takes out Lapras with a Hammer Arm into Bullet Punch. Hammer Arm into Bullet Punch takes out her Whalrim, and another Hammer Arm takes out Cloyster. Her last Pokemon is literally Articuno, but it goes down to 1 Meteor Mash. On the next run, I run into a Snorlax, which I catch and name Big Kitty, and I kick Jessie off the team. Sorry Jessie, I just love Snorlaxes. And now it's my final battle in the game, the champion, Wallace. Wallace leaves off with a Golduck, and I lead off with Debbie. Golduck freezes me on turn 1, but I thaw and get my sub out, but it breaks my sub immediately. I hard switch into Big Kitty, who has thick fat and can tank Ice Beams, but Big Kitty gets frozen solid as well. So I defrost Big Kitty with the full heal and proceed to use High Power to take down Golduck. Next is Wallace's Walrein, who is hitting hard with Surf. I sack Big Kitty here and go into Leonardo, which is honestly really dumb. That was a really weird choice I just made. We get into a surfing war with Walrein, but Leonardo comes out on top with just a sliver of health left. Next is his Starmie. I decide to sack Leonardo here for a clean switch into Debbie. Rather than set up a sub, I go for a Discharge. Debbie gets burned by Scald, but takes out the Starmie. Next, Wallace sends out the Weather God, Kyogre. I go into Fiona, who tanks a few ice beams as I heal up Debbie. Kyogre gets Fiona into red health, and I use Endeavor to bring its health down to match. Then I sack Fiona and switch into Debbie. I take out Kyogre with a discharge. Next up is Cloyster. I go into Arm and take out Cloyster with a Hammer Arm. Last is Slowking. Arm goes down to a Scald. I go into Debbie and take out Slowking with a final discharge. I won the game! Is what I would have said. I'm afraid another battle awaits before you may be bestowed that title. Good luck. I thought that was the end. I played super recklessly and only have 2 Pokemon left. Luckily, there is a calm route for me to explore before the final battle. On that route, I catch a Cacturn I named Spoiled because it refused to get into the ball until I threw out a Luxury Ball. Like, come on. I also get a Crawdaunt I named Mr. Krabs and an Electrode I named Joker, because they kinda look like they have a Joker smile, right? But the next stop is what I'm really excited for. It's a PC. That means one of my old dead Pokemon can come back to life. Arms, is that you? I take Arms, obviously. Sorry but not sorry, Gongan Big Kitty. At the final rest stop, I customize the movesets of Spoiled, Mr. Krabs, and Joker a bit but not too much, and I go into my final battle. And I should have guessed, it's against Steven. Steven leaves with a Magnetongue, and I leave with Joker. I set up a Light Scream and hard switch into Debbie. Debbie tanks a Thunderbolt, and I set up a Substitute and pass it to Puff. Puff's Substitute breaks, but I decide to full send it and go for a Dragon Dance. Puff gets paralyzed, but I bring Magneton down to Sturdy. Now it's time to sweep. Steven sweeps into Aggron, which I take out with 1 Earthquake. Steven switches again into Latias. Time to outrage! Oh wait, Puff is paralyzed. No! But this death will not be in vain. I switch into Joker to set up a Light Screen. It looks like Latias is choiced into Draco Meteor, so I switch into Debbie and pass a Substitute to Arm. Steven switches into Skarmory to Whirlwind me out, and sends me into Spoiled. I switch into Mr. Krabs as I stall to heal up Debbie and the Joker. I switch into Joker to take out Skarmory with a Discharge, and Steven goes back into Latias. Latias is now choiced into Psychic, which I tank, and I set up a Light Screen before switching into Spoiled. Steven goes into Mew, so I go for a Sucker Punch as he switches into Metagross, who misses a Meteor Mash. I set up a layer of spikes before Spoiled goes down to a second Meteor Mash. I send out Joker to get off a Discharge and hopefully paralyze it, but no luck. I go into Arm, who takes it out with Earthquake. He keeps on roosting off the damage I do with Meteor Mash. Then he hard switches into Magneton, which I finally take out before going back into Mew and then into Latias again, which is honestly confusing me. I take out the Mew with another Meteor Mash. His last Pokemon is Latias, who also goes down finally to a final Meteor Mash. And that is actually the last battle. Joker the Electrode, Debbie the Minun, Spoiled the Cacturn, Mr. Krabs the Crawdaunt, Puff the Magic Dragonite, and Arms the Metagross all have solidified their place in the Hall of Fame of the Pokemon Roguelike. And honestly, what a hilarious looking team. We have 5 really tough looking Pokemon and 1 little mousy girl in a tank who ended up outliving them all. Yo, some really messy playing there, but I was just having a little fun this time, and sometimes it's fun to play smooth brain style. I highly recommend giving the roguelike a try. The link to the one I played is in the description below. Hope y'all enjoyed, and smell you later. Bye!